What is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters? How are you all doing today? Astro Phoenix here. Of course, flying into the moment, yet again, irradiating love, as always. I just wanted to come on here and make a video. Um, it was interesting, actually. Today's been a very interesting day. That's the reason why I wanted to make this video, is that today just didn't go the way that I planned, but honestly, I didn't have any plans. That's the weird thing about today is that I only had a couple of plans for the day, and I'm about to do them right now. But there have been things that have come up today that, came up or got in the way, I guess, of that vision. And I'm not mad about it at all. I'm not upset or anything. It's kind of weird. It's raining outside, and I'm not in a bad mood at all, but it does feel like a rainy day. Like just not even just externally, but it just feels like one of those days. It just feels like a rainy kind of day. And it's just very weird too. 'Cause I think a lot of times we associate these kind of days, excuse me, with like, oh, it's rainy, it's dreary, or something like that. And I'm like, no, it's not that kind of day. It's just one of those. The way that my wife described it, she just wants to be cuddled. It's like a day where you just want to kind of cuddle up and be warm and stuff like that. Be comfortable, secure. It's an interesting kind of day, but yet I find myself kind of on this quite an interesting adventure today. And it's funny too. The adventures I feel like most of us have right now are more so mental and definitely in the more emotional, imaginative places. Because when you think of adventure, what do you think of? Do you think of going off to some exotic foreign land, but which is certainly an adventure, right? I definitely did not go off to any exotic foreign lands today. I went to the grocery store. I went to go have lunch with my wife, and we sat in the car while we're eating our Chick-fil-A, and then I took her back to work, right? But that could easily be an adventure, too. Yeah, I didn't go off to freaking Budapest or freaking Buenos Aires. I didn't do anything like that. I didn't go to Madagascar with Zabumafu or anything. You know, that's an adventure. But another adventure are like mental adventures, emotional adventures. And these are adventures and treks and journeys that we are starting to explore these realms more. And I think as we explore these realms more, what true spirituality is will begin to come more into clarity. But so far, we have explored mostly these sort of physical, tangible kind of adventures, right? Whereas the mental and emotional ones, we explore them in different ways through movies and books. We kind of flirt with them and stuff. But, especially during these times right now, we are given an opportunity to go on these grand adventures when it comes to emotional things, mental things, spiritual things. And I wanted to talk about in this video, we have a 3 minute preface here about a glitch in the matrix, or how to become a glitch in the matrix, or how to break out of that matrix or paradigm or frame. And then I made a video like this before. I can't remember quite where it was. I got Leo right here. He's like reaching up at me, and it's so freaking cute. Yes, buddy. I wanted to talk about this today. I don't know why. It just suddenly came up about matrices and stuff. Well, what is a matrix? Let's define that, because I feel like, especially now with a cinematic representation of the matrix, that is usually, especially those people who are on their spiritual path or actively on their spiritual path and kind of opening up their mind to these things. That's usually where we go to, right? Is that cinematic representation of it, right? So, what is a matrix, though? A matrix is really, it's in any kind of enclosed, defined space, if you would say. A matrix is like a parameter, okay? So, a matrix has some type of programming into it, right? So, certain tasks and certain things can get done. So say like you confine a space, right? You could put water into a glass, and that glass can literally be a matrix. There's programming within that matrix so that water doesn't move and just it stays there, right? There's different, and there's codes based off of what you put into as well. So it's like, say like I have like a disk drive, right? There's code within that, and I put it into, I guess, this matrix, which would be like, say, my PS3, whatever. And it reads the code on there, and it interfaces, and then it gives me whatever it is, right? Same thing goes for water. You have you have item A, which would be, I guess you could say, the container, and then you have item B, which is whatever you're putting into that container. And based off of the way that the codes interface, there is a predictive programming that goes on so that the water pretty much stays still. This will go for the same if you threw Cheetos into a cup. The cup is still a matrix and a container, but when you put Cheetos in, it's not going to look like the water because of the coding and the programming within that Cheeto. Now, I know I'm speaking very metaphorically, but I hope that you guys can grasp what I'm saying here. So that's really what a matrix is. It's something. It's a container. It's a space. Now, what we do with that space and what we do with that predictive programming is really up to us. And most of the time, 99.9% of the time, we kind of just follow the predictive programming. So I drew a couple of examples of what you can see as matrices, right? So we have that. This can easily be a matrix. And then here's one too. This is an enclosed space. Now, what's interesting about this matrix right here is that it's a little bit harder to define because there is no edges technically, right? And there is an assumption, I guess you would say. There's an assumption with this top matrix as opposed to the bottom one. Because you can stretch these lines out, indefinitely in whatever direction, stuff like that. Now, there is an assumption, right, that there will be another line right here, right? So it still creates the matrix. Now that's, of course, the assumption. It doesn't, I guess, technically have to. But that's the assumption as what it'll eventually look like, right? There's predictive programming. You have boxes within boxes. And then it can go down and break down even further from boxes within other boxes. So a matrix is something that has a predictable pattern inside of it. A glitch is anything that breaks that predictive patterning. And that is what's happening right now. We have been acting in a way that has been predictable for such a long time. And now we are beginning to break that predictive programming and we're being able to glitch out of these different matrices. Now, here's the thing though. Here's is another, I guess you could say, matrix with a pattern inside of it. So you see you have the swirl, then you have these little triangle things, right? And then you have what's inside of the triangles. I'm just giving you guys examples. So there are patterns within patterns and matrices within matrices. So here's the funny thing about spiritual growth, though. It's like it is in many ways you becoming like a glitch in the system because you are becoming aware of not only your patterns, but the higher pattern that you may be within. But what's happening right now, especially this year, is that it has broken humanity out of a very predictive pattern that we have been slowly glitching ourselves out of. But in a very funny way, the people that I guess you would say kind of run the world, they kind of did something that actually was going to cause this glitch to pretty much go into overdrive, is what I would say. So let's just take this down to a simpler level, right? Let's just take this down to a very bite-sized level. How can you become a glitch in the system? How can you become a glitch in the matrix? Well, let's just take my life for example, right? Now, like I said, a parameter is a box, these different corners, and how do you break out of that? The matrix in many ways can be represented by the 4 fixed signs, right? What you see on the Wheel of Fortune, you have the bull with Taurus, you have the lion with Leo, the eagle with Scorpio, and the man with Aquarius. That can be a matrix. Of course, the cardinal, you have a cardinal matrix as well. You have a mutable matrix. That's just an astrological example of matrices, right? You have, okay, let's just say this. Your home can be a matrix. And there could be predictable patterning in your home. You ever fall into just like a routine and you think about it one day and you're like, how did I get here? It's like a routine. You just follow into it, right? You have your workplace, you have these different areas of your life, your health, maybe your spiritual growth and all that sort of stuff. It's about setting aside the time and making space for things. So here's the thing though, when it comes to being a glitch in the matrix, it's about breaking out of the predictive programming and creating a new pattern. Because here's the thing, that pattern's still going to kind of etch along. Like say like this pattern right here, right? Say I just started doing dots, right? You could say that that's a glitch in the matrix. Is that me going from this thing right here to just a dot? You could say that that's like a glitch in the matrix, but it will continue on as well. And maybe even over time, depending upon how strong this glitch is, this glitch or this pattern will continue, depending upon how strong that dot is. So think about any type of habit that you tried to break, right? I'm going to give myself a good one, okay? What's a habit that I've been trying to break? Okay, I've been trying to curb my drinking. Let's just be real about that. I don't drink a ton. I got it to the point where I was drinking pretty much only on the weekends and then occasionally during the week. But, I wanted to do an actual break because I haven't done a break and I don't know how long. So I'm doing a fast right now. Okay, so and it's easy actually. It got to the point where it's easy for me to not drink during the week and stuff like that. And when I would drink, I would never really drink to get drunk and stuff like that. But I'm just putting this out as an example. So it got to the point where it was actually pretty easy for me to not drink during the week. But then when it comes to the weekend, yeah, I might put back some rum and stuff, It is what it is, I guess, right? But now I'm actually trying to break out of that pattern by just simply not drinking for a bit, And depending upon how much you value that and how much energy that you give to that, the programming can begin to break and you can begin to kind of glitch your way or simulate yourself to another kind of pattern. So let's just take another simple example, right? Let's say, as far as like a glitch in the matrix, I'm going to kind of use something as, all right, say you have a creative project that you want to work on, right? Say you've been wanting to make little arts and crafts and put them up on an Etsy thing. You do it every so often, but you don't do it super, super often, right? So what you have to first of all, of course, look at what might actually be pausing you from doing these things. And a lot of times I'm telling you guys it's subconscious. So you want to pay attention to your dreams and stuff. But a lot of times it can be very subconscious. So I would say to just simply do it. So say you go you set aside that time, that's how you do it. So say you really want to invest in this little arts and crafts project and start making your Etsy shop, and you do it every so often, but you probably only do it maybe once every other week that you kind of work on it. You actually just literally you have to create another matrix too. That's the funny thing. You have to create another matrix within the pattern and actually create something that is new and strong enough and can hold its weight and can hold its value so that the thing outside of it doesn't get in and fuck with it. And then that's how you create it. So say you only do it every so often. All right, you set aside time. Okay, every single Wednesday, I'm going to do this thing for this set of time. And you hold to that. You create another pattern for yourself within the larger pattern, and then it'll eventually begin to seep out and affect it, essentially. So let me give you guys another visual example, because I feel like the visual example would really, really help. Okay, so let's just take this box, right? And this is a matrix. So, and then there's an obvious pattern to this, right? Okay. So you see this obvious pattern, how it just goes half and half and half and half and half, and it just keeps going, right? So say you wanted, and these different matrices, these different boxes could be different aspects of your life, and then the whole thing could be your whole life, right? So in order for you to kind of break out of this pattern right here, right? If it's a pattern that's not really resonating with you, but you kind of just find yourself still doing it anyways, you would go into one of these boxes. You would create that space. So let's just say that this space that I mark right here, that little dot right there, let's just say that dot right there is the day or whatever that you're going to commit to doing this thing, right? Now you have to be consistent with that too, though. That's the way that you can kind of glitch. We all kind of glitch in our matrix anyways, because random things happen every day. We might not necessarily notice it, and then becoming lucid or aware to it, we kind of get little glimpses of it. But if we're talking about everlasting change, you want to focus and hone in on that spot. So whenever say like this is your day, right? Say it would have been the other way, but say that this is like your day. It's like, so whenever you get to this block, you do something different, but you do that something different consistently. And as you do that something different consistently on that day within the larger pattern, it will begin to seep out and affect the pattern and actually change your situation. So that's in many ways how you would form habits. In many ways, that's how you would actually eventually go to doing that thing one time out of the week to 2 times to 3 times, because it then just becomes so natural and you actually begin to change your situation. So that's really what it's all about. Becoming a glitch in the matrix is becoming lucid to the fact that you are inside of a pattern. And how do you break that pattern? A lot of times we love to just take brute force and break the pattern, and that doesn't really work. You got to actually set aside time and space. You have to create another frame, if you will, within that frame and work on that frame so much to the point that it begins to really seep out and change the larger pattern and seep out. That's how it happens. So I hope that this made sense. I know that this is probably a little bit different of a video for me, but these are the kind of videos I really enjoy making because this is kind of the way that my mind works anyways. So for me, it kind of makes sense. It's like, take for example for me, and hopefully I can actually take my advice. I'm not the best at taking my own advice. I think we all can be like that, but I know for me, it's like I've been wanting to do more writing and make more videos and stuff, and I've been trying to brute force my way into it instead of actually focusing on everlasting change. So it's like I want to take this and see what happens with it. I'm not going to necessarily give like any guarantees on what days I'm going to do which projects, what days I'll make videos, what days I'll do blah blah blah, whatever. I'm gonna kind of just keep that on the DL, but you'll just see whatever comes out of this channel anyways, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. But I am going to kind of switch my approach to this because I think, this whole idea that came forth about being a glitch in the matrix and thinking about it from a different standpoint. Because I think before what we do is that I think a lot of people do this, especially on your spiritual journey and your path, and when you're learning about stuff and you're becoming aware, you're like watching these documentaries and these films and reading these books and stuff. It's like we try and brute force our way into what our spiritual path will actually be instead of gracefully falling into it. So it's like, it's different, thinking about it from this standpoint. It's like, yeah, there could be a greater pattern at large in play that may seem very chaotic, but if you kind of create your own frame within that pattern and you really hone in on your heart and your spirit and your soul's truth and really shine that light and radiate that love, if you focus on that, the outer pattern it can't get in there and fucking affect you because it can't do that. And that's where the true healing comes from. It comes from you, the individual, going within yourself, irregardless of the frame outside of you and the predictive patterning and whatever like that and the codes that you're interfacing with. But you're going within yourself and you'll be like, no, this is for me, This is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I'm bringing forth. This is my love. This is, and we're all a part of this too. We're all are a part of this, There's a predictive kind of programming going on here, right? Come down here, we get born, we grow up, we make babies, and it's a pattern, right? It's a pattern. Now, there are other big cycles and patterns and stuff like that. I'm not talking about necessarily breaking out of those. I'm talking more so breaking out of emotional patterning, mental, psychological patterning, and of course, eventually societal, because there's another predictive programming pattern matrix that we in. That's like the 5-day work week and 2 days off, 5 weeks on, 5 days of the week, you're working 2 days of the week, you're not. That's a matrix too, and people don't always live in that matrix, but it's the predominant matrix, so it has a lot of influence. So it really comes down to, and that's just an example. There are countless examples of this. That's why I want to use the word matrix and stuff like this and kind of almost deconstruct it in a bit because I feel like people are looking at it from a particular angle. We could be inside of some great video game. I could be laying in some weird little pod thing, and then when I wake up, I might slide down a tube and I'm like covered in gunk. I'm like, oh, this is the real world. Yeah, these machines took over, blah, blah, blah. You know, that could be it. But I wanted to break it down to a little bit more of a simpler place. So I think a lot of this right now, a lot of the matrices that we are breaking out of are within the mental realm because we are learning how to master the Gemini vibration, you know, and that's really going to be talk for another video. So, and another thing as far as like how to break out of the predictive patterning and actually become like a glitch. And the thing about the glitch is that it's you won't really necessarily feel like a glitch yourself. You may start to notice things, but it's really from like observers on the outside. So are we being watched by other things? I know we definitely could be. This could be some weird great experiment and stuff like that. But we as a populace are glitching right now. So this vibration of breaking out of predictive programming is becoming heightened on the planet. So that's why, first of all, that's why this video even exists, and that's also why you're probably feeling the way that you feel because there's been certain patterns and codes and programs and symbolisms that have been going on for a while now, and now you're starting to kind of see beyond those things or even deeper into those things and seeing how those things are breaking down and taking a new form and stuff like that. It's a very transformative time. A very transformative time, guys. So, just keep that in mind. And we're going to, of course, dive more into this. And I think it would be really good if I had, like, really nice visuals. These visuals, honestly, they were just, like, quick little things I did. But I just kind of want to talk about that because I feel like this is an energy that we're all are dealing with. And I think it's something that also can really help you and help myself to frame it in this way of how to really kind of change our reality and really begin to bring things into manifestation. Like a different way of, it's like a different way of the law of attraction, I guess you could say. But even that word's kind of been thrown around quite a bit. So, but the one thing I wanted to talk about, I mentioned how we're mastering that Gemini vibration. I think they say in order to actually form a habit, it's like you need to be doing something consistently for like 60 days. I think that's what it is. This makes sense. I'm gonna just take it from the astrological standpoint. Think about those first 30 days as 30 degrees of Aries. So it is definitely this fiery passion and drive, but that flame could peter out if you're not really in it, if you're not really about it. So that's why, like, sometimes you may start a project and it may flame out really quick. That's kind of Aries energy. It could be an explosive blast, but whether it's not necessarily contained, that would be more Leo energy. It's not really contained. And it's not necessarily, it's a little bit more focused, I guess, in Sagittarius, but it's still just like, it's explosive. It's like out of the cardinal signs, which are about directing things and like motion and stuff, out of the cardinal signs, it's like Aries is probably the most mutable of them because for me, when I think of Aries, I just think of an explosion and like a blast of energy. That's what I think of. So, I don't think of Sagittarius. I think Sagittarius is more like plasma, but that's just me because it's beautiful fire. So I think of plasma. But those first 30 days will be Aries, and those second 30 days will be Taurus. And Taurus is about value. It is about manifesting stuff. This is physical Earth. This is like fixed Earth. So this is literally Earth, like, right? So things actually do begin to manifest. You start to see results. This is Taurus. You start to see some results, and it may not be like massive results, whatever like that, right? Because this is still the springtime, but you might start to see some leaves, and some little buds, and some little saplings. This is when you start to see things actually begin to manifest. So that's going to be your next 30 days. That's 60 degrees. That's 60 days, and then you get to Gemini. And Gemini is the fun part where you start to go within the communication, your local area, your mind, so to speak, and you begin to really explore that realm, right? So if we think of like a mental paradigm, it's like you go through Aries, you go through Taurus. So you have a lot of experience now. You have 60 degrees of experience. You have 60 days, which is apparently how long it takes to form a habit, right? And then you get to Gemini. That's when you begin to shift the way that you think mentally, because this is mutable air. So you get to begin to shift that whole realm, you know? And then that's when it really drives home. It kind of makes sense that it takes 60 days, because once you get to the mental space and you begin to like form things, it almost just kind of flows into where it naturally would be anyways. Hence why Gemini is the mirror, okay? So it's like you take that action in Aries and you sustain it. You value it enough to let it sustain through Taurus season. So by the time that Gemini comes, it just mirrors your reality. That's where we are right now. But we're learning how to master Gemini. We haven't even gotten to Gemini. And it's weird too, because oh my gosh. Yeah, anyways, that's a whole nother video, guys. That's a whole nother video. Anyways, I love you all so much. I'm going to continue about my day and actually do the two things that I wanted to do today. The main two things that I wanted to do, I'm finally about to do them. But I enjoyed this video. I hope it made sense. If it didn't, well, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm saying this a little bit right here, because I know I could be kind of metaphorical and all that stuff like that. But, you know, I know that you guys are able to follow me and stuff, so I really do that part. I usually preface that sort of stuff with a lot of other people, because like growing up, I was very poetic and metaphorical, and most people didn't understand what I was saying or trying to say, whatever. And I think it's like a part of me stopped being that way with everyone, you know. But really, it's like that's the only way I know how to. It's like one of the ways I know how to do it. It's like, see, that's a little predictive programming. It's the only way I know how to be. So maybe that's something I gotta work on too. But anyways, I hope that this made any kind of sense. And if it did, leave a thumbs up and share this video with a friend. I love you all so much. And I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.